Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the Hidizs MS3. This is the latest release from Hidizs, following the MS5, which was launched a couple of months ago, and well, met with different levels of enthusiasm and liking. Let's put it that way. This is the younger brother, a 1 plus 2. The basic philosophy between the two of them has been maintained in terms of there's adjustable tuning nozzles, there's a very complete accessories package which I'll show to you, but the sound signature has changed significantly, to say the least. Anyway, this is the box. Inside the box, once you open it up, I'll just, if it would open up, okay, you open it up, and inside the IEMs, as you can see, and underneath that then come several trays with all the different accessories that are part of this. Okay, one of the trays that we get is this tray or sub box, this box here, which has got some of the literature inside and brings the carrying case, which, I mean, it's a pity that they didn't actually make a proper hard shell carrying case. You know, it's a pity, but look, it is what it is. This is priced at around $110, give or take. So I guess some corners had to be cut. So you get that, okay? And you also get then the tray with all the different tips. They've got these vocal ones here. They have the bass and they have the balanced, and as well the tuning nozzles. You have these silver ones, which will emphasize a little bit more the mids and upper mids. You have the ones which were here, which are the red ones, which emphasize the bass and also change radically how the initial pinna gain is done. So instead of you having a pinna gain which quickly rises and peaks at about 2K, this changes that peak, let's put it that way, and makes it a more progressive pinna gain up to about close to 4K, let's put it, and then kind of stabilizes it, and then with a couple of related peak and extension past that. So that's that one. And then the gold nozzles, which are these ones here, which are basically let's say the in between the two of them. So it doesn't emphasize as much as the silver, doesn't mess on the base, and doesn't cut as well that area there of 2-3Ks as significantly. So that's basically then the tips and accessories. I tried the tips, I measured it up with the tips, ended up using my trusty KB Euro 7s, which in essence give me a performance kind of in between these two, kind of between the balanced and the bass. The only reason why I didn't use the balance or bass in this particular case was because the tips outer layer is a little bit softer than on the KB ear, and it has a tendency of crumbling quite quickly, as you can see there by the small ones here. You see, that happens very easily without you even having to try too hard. Anyway, as I said, those are the tips. We've seen the carrying case. The IEMs themselves are very reminiscent of the MS5s. They got a kind of the same vibe of design and going on. The cable, again, the same cable. Again, the issue that I found with this cable, although not as bad as on the MS5, is this curve here is a little bit too pronounced. So what I will end up doing is removing actually this last section here of like the sleeving that it's got, which will then make the cable much more malleable. The terminations are fine. It's only a 3.5 mil termination, but it's fine. The cable itself measures up actually quite nicely, and that's why I left it and I didn't even change the cable. Why bother? Fit is good. You have to play around a little bit with the tips to find the right one, but fit is good for the most part, not a problem. Isolates well. So in terms of the hardware side of things, I didn't find any issues, honestly. It's you know, very nice IEM, well built, really nothing that can be let's say faulted in the physical aspect. So what do I have here? Well, the majority of them are priced at about the same value as the MS3, with the exception of one, which is the Yume 2. And the reason why I put here the Yume 2 is not because it has a sound which is similar to any of these. These four basically have a very similar sound signature. Well, these four here, this fifth one, which is the GS Audio, and the Yume, are the ones that have a different sound signature. But the majority of the IMs here, I have a very similar sound signature, a very similar the philosophy in terms of the sound that we're trying to obtain. But the Yuma, I've got it here because for me at least it is probably with the seven acoustics Stargaze, the two best hybrids of 1+2 format that you can get. I thought it made sense to put it here so that we could compare the MS3 to the Yume, not so much as to ascertain which is better, because their design in terms of sound, their philosophy in terms of sound is completely different, but for you to understand where they stand with each other. As always, Cayenne RO7, well, as always, lately, Cayenne RO7, M15 from Q-Style, NX7 is my main source, and I also used my RA2 FE with the Prime DAC from Venture Electronics. Those were the two sources that I mainly used. I ended up using a little bit this one because of the fact that I was a little bit more on the go, and it was just easier to carry this as opposed to the 3 units which make up the Venture Electronics. Okay, so what do I have then here? I've got the BGVP THI-Fi red face of 1+2, priced at more or less $115, $120. It was initially more expensive, but the price has come down. It is, in my opinion, a very interesting sounding 1+2. Kind of went very much under the radar, didn't get the love that it deserved, mainly because the initial price was just out of context. Well, the Yume 2 we already know. This you can get anywhere between $170 to $190 depending on the vendor. The MS3 obviously. Next to that is another IM which is not very much spoken of and also hasn't gotten a lot of love, which is the Wizard, the HE3AL, which is a 1+2. You can get this on AliExpress for just over $100, so it made perfect sense to have it here. They've also got other packages which include a better cable and tips. Those go up in price, but as it is here, it's basically the same price. Next to that, the Tinker TK300, another 1+2, around $110, $115. Very nice 9.7mm dynamic driver in here, actually, worth mentioning that. And then finally on this far right corner here, the GS Audio GD3C, which is part of the GD3A, the 3B, the 3C, the 3D, that series, which the A and the C are the ones that have the most open sound, the B and the D are the ones which are a little bit more closed down, not as detailed up top. So you could say perhaps warmer sounding, darker sounding, so what is the sound here? It is a V-shaped sound, okay, with the gold nozzles, which are over here. And I went back and forth between the gold and the red, With the gold nozzles, it's got a nice, healthy bass. It's very clean, very impactful, okay. The mids and the up mids and the highs are placed on an emphasis, with relation to the bass. What that means then is that you have a very open sound, very dynamic, but there's, for me personally, there's a little peak there centered around 5K, which on some songs can be just a little bit too overwhelming, okay. It never got to the point of being aggressive or anything of the sort, but Jeff Ryan's Up and Up, for example, the sax, it was there. It was right on the edge. And that was one of very few. For the majority of the rest of the songs that I listened to and the auditioning that I did, I cannot honestly find any major fault. Yes, it has its strengths and it has its weaknesses. Male vocals perhaps a little bit more recessed as compared to female vocals, but nothing that's too overwhelming. In terms of its technicalities, nice soundstage, nice imaging, good detailed retrieval, good resolution. So again, nothing that at least if you then also consider the fact that we're talking just roughly above $100, you cannot truly find a major fault when it comes to the technicalities of it. The highs are clean, detailed, but they have a sense of sometimes losing a little bit their posture. They become a little bit less polished than what ideally would be the case. The mids, as I said, they are for the most part, well reproduced, except for that little peak there around 5k, which for me bugs me. But like I said, on just one or two songs, nothing major. If there is a, well, not a fault, but the timbre and tonality is not the timbre and tonality of let's say a more audiophile orientated IM, but by no means is it also wrong. It's fine. I enjoyed it because let's put it, it's like I usually say, it is a colored IM, but it's a colored IM that has been tastefully done. Okay, so and then coming down into the bass, yes, there is a strong bass. Yes, it does bleed a little bit into the mids, but it's nothing that I personally consider a deal breaker, and it actually helps in making the overall sound presentation of the MS3 I'm trying to find the word here, well, engaging, let's put it that way. It is engaging, and yeah, that basically covers it. Okay, as compared then to these, as I said, these four, the THI-5, the Wizard, and the TK300, they all have this kind of very more V-shaped signature. Okay, these two actually have a very similar signature with the gold nozzle. I'll get into the red nozzle just now, I haven't forgotten. They do have a very similar signature. However, because this one here, that level of energy across the mids, the upper mids and treble has been lowered slightly, it doesn't sound like I said on the MS3. You don't get that occasional lack of that polish in the highs, first, and second, you also don't, that peak around the 5k as well is way more subdued. Or not as noticeable. Let me just make perfectly clear, when I say about these peaks and when I talk about this is really minor things, because the truth is this is an amazing sounding IEM that I think that will please way more people than it pleased the MS5. Personally, I am team MS5. I love the MS5, especially with the bass nozzle, the red nozzle as well, filter, and with the bass tips. It is phenomenal. That I am phenomenal. I think it's. I honestly think that a lot of the people that encountered issues with it being too forward in the treble and too sparkly, too energetic, too overly energetic, I think maybe some of those people that found that problem really didn't give it a genuine try to tip roll a little bit more and play around. That's my honest opinion, because even in the let's say the worst case scenario, the MS5, I didn't find it to be as aggressive as some people kind of portrayed it. It was kind of portrayed as being really aggressive in the upper mids and highs, and you couldn't really listen to it, and I didn't really consider that. The MS3 is the complete opposite. It's an IM that you will enjoy for sure. It's a very easy to like IM. The only issue, like I said, is that energy there at 5k, that if you are sensitive to that, pay attention. Okay, but again, it will make itself known way before it becomes an issue, so you can control the volume and that's it. The THI-5 is darker sounding than the MS3, not as detailed. That's very noticeable. The bass also, although very good, it's a little bit more sluggish, so it's not as a clean drum hit as you get on the MS3. The MS3 in that aspect is again substantially superior. Where the THI-5 perhaps edges out the MS3 is in terms of its timbre and the tonality. It sounds a little bit more organic. I'm not even going to say that it sounds more musical, because this is very musical as well. It just sounds more relaxed overall, although being V-shaped signatures, and a more easy to live for a long period of time in listening than the MS3. The MS3, otherwise in the rest of the departments, be it the technicalities, be it in its detailed retrieval, especially, it completely beats the THI-5. Compared to these ones, I'll leave the UME for last. Compared to these ones, Tinker TK300. Very much the same situation that happens there with the THI-5, although I found the bass here to be a little bit stronger, and so by being a little bit stronger, what this does is that it has the effect of that perceived peakiness at around 5k to be quite subdued. And the reality is the TK300 is a very nice sounding IM, very nice sound. It's got this bullet style shape, as you can see, but it's a very nice style, a very nice sounding IM, very capable. This is not an IM for those that are wanting the ultimate in audiophile reproduction, no, but it's a fun, engaging, well executed V signature with, again, very little or very few flaws that are, I think, worth mentioning. The HE3D the HE3AL from Wizard. It's in essence basically the MS3, just more relaxed in the mids, upper mids, and treble. So really no need for me to elaborate too much there. And then over here, the GD3C. This was for a long time, and ultimately it will still be my rec for a 1+2 if that's what you want. This costs around $100. Sometimes it comes down a little bit more. But for $100, what you get is this very beautifully built shell, nice face plates. It's got a nice, although simple, but it's got a nice but simple array of components inside. Decent enough dynamic driver, BEAs as well. The sound is very relaxed in the bass, very relaxed in the bass, very relaxed in the mids. It's only real but it's only real flaw that I can think of, again, is this energy around the 5k area, or like on the MS3, that sometimes can just be a little bit too much depending on what song you're listening. So especially if it's saxophones and sax solos, it can get a little bit on your nerves. The Wizard, just worth mentioning as well, it's been around for a long time, and sometimes I'm actually surprised why not much more has been said about it, because it is, I mean, they all sound really nice. Let's make that perfectly clear. All of these IMs sound very nice. Different aspects here and there, but overall the sound that it produces is amazing. Out of the whole bunch, the one that's the most, probably you could say, considered audiophile correct is the UMA 2, and I'm not going to get into much details about it. I love it. I just love the way it reproduces music across the board. It's very coherent, very correct. The BAs, both the Sony and the Knowles that it's got, they've been perfectly matched with the dynamic driver, and it sounds flawless. The truth is that. Okay. Back to the MS3 with the red nozzles, which are currently here. And as I said earlier, it makes that pinna gain much more smoother. It lowers the volume energy across the board of the mids, upper mids, and treble, and makes for an IM that also it gets a little bit of a bass boost. Which it makes for an IM that, although it loses out in its technical abilities compared to its stock gold nozzle, because the stock gold nozzle does allow it to showcase its technicalities. With the red nozzle, those technicalities, they take a blow, especially in terms of overall detail retrieval and sense of space, sense of let's say, soundstage. The rest, however incredible it might seem, the rest is faultless. And I actually ended up spending more time with the red nozzles than I did with the gold. The fact that I lost that little bit of detail was a pity, but I gained a different texture in the bass, a different energy in the bass, which I consider to be very gratifying. And I mean, like I said, there's really not a lot that I can falter on the MS3. Truly, there's really not a lot that I can falter. The only thing that is worth mentioning is, if you are sensitive to that area there, like I said, of the 4 to 5 and a bit kilohertz, then just make sure that you choose your tip carefully. I did find as well that if I inserted it deeper, that issue no longer was as prominent. However, with the smaller tip, it just wasn't able to fit it and to keep it there. And that's it, guys. I mean, basically, I think I've said everything. The red nozzle, in my opinion, which is the base nozzle, ends up being the nozzle that I prefer ultimately, because of that organicness in the sound that is gained. It kind of gains this vibe of a sound like you get from some Penon and ISN IEMs. So it gains that nice lush bass sound. It loses a little bit in the technicalities, fine, but what it gains in musicality and in that organic aspect of playing back music is more than compensatory for the loss of some detailed retrieval that you have and some openness in the sound, and that's just the way that I prefer it, is with the red nozzle. And that's it. I'll show you now the graphs and we'll wrap it up. All right, you take care. Hi guys, and welcome up to the graph section for the Hidizs MS3. These are the three graphs with the three different settings, or well, nozzle being used. Let me just take away some. So the gold nozzle is this graph that you see. Yes, it does have some bleed into the mids, and yes, that does overemphasize male vocals, but honestly, it's like I said earlier, this is a V-shaped signature. It's a colored signature, but it's been well executed. The bass is very nice. It's a very nice, full, thick, impactful bass. It's perfect. The mids are, for the most part, as well, nothing to be said about them. Instruments, everything, it's fine. It's just this area here between 4 and 5, which I am particularly sensitive to, that sometimes can get me on songs like Jeff Ryan's Up and Up. So when it's a song that involves some brass instruments or anything that's wind related, so trumpets, saxophones, trombones, it can get a little bit too much for me. Taking that out of the equation, it sounds fine. It's not an IM that was meant to be the ultimate audiophile reproduction or the ultimate monitor. It sounds absolutely fine. I also used a lot, the silver nozzle emphasizes a little bit more those peaks, maintains everything basically the same, so it actually goes and showcases early on that let's call it that over energy that it has. So I didn't really use the silver nozzle. The red nozzle, which is the nozzle which also boosts the bass, besides then reformulating the way that the mids and upper mids and treble are done, it gives you a boost of about 2 dBs in the bass, and then it brings down this area between 1 and 3, making for a much more progressive pinna gain, peaking it closer to 4K. Gone is that peak between 4 and 5 as well, and this actually is the way I preferred listening more to the MS3. Is it the ultimate incorrectness? No, it's not. Is it fun and engaging? Yes, it is. Has it got great bass? Yes, it does. By virtue of its tuning, is it not as detailed as with the gold nozzle? Yes, it's not as detailed. It loses out a little bit of that resolution, of that detail. But this is about being musical, fun, organic, and that it has. I mean, this kind of, with this setup, it gives me very much the vibe that you get from some of Penon's and ISN's offerings, okay? So that's the three graphs. I'm going to leave just the graph with the gold nozzle just for the sake of comparisons here with other stuff that you will understand now. The first one that I'm going to be comparing it with is the where is it? There we go, yeah, 18 is the Wizard HE3AL, and as you can see, very similar graph. The biggest difference is that area there between 4 and 6, 7K has been subdued, so not as in your face, and it's quite noticeable. But also, although it doesn't seem like it, okay, by looking at it, it loses a little bit out as well in terms of detailed retrieval and overall sparkles. All the twinklies and the sparkles are way more subdued. Nice because it's not as fatiguing, but it loses a lot of detailed retrieval. That's the thing that you will notice, okay? Next one is number 17. Let me see. Yes, this is the THI-Fi BGVP red face. Again, mids, upper mids, and treble, very nicely done. Very, very, very plateaued kind of. Not as much ultimate twinklies and sparklies as the MS3, no, but it's very relaxed, very smooth, very easy to listen. and not as overly energetic, let's put it that way. Also, coupled to that, we have a quicker roll off of the bass. If one is more of a gliding, I would almost say this kind of a tuck. So by 300 hertz, which we need to, the low mids, it's already flat basically, so it doesn't bleed as much. However, that doesn't really translate into a dramatically more open sound or anything of the sort. No, still the MS3 does sound more open, more entertaining, more engaging. But nevertheless, the THI-Fi is a good IEM. Okay, so that's the THI-Fi gone. Next one that I'm going to show you now. Where is it? No, not this. Sorry, my apologies. No. Yes, the C Audio, the Yume. The C Audio Yume. I've actually centered this one at 500 hertz as opposed to 1. You can see there's a lot of similarities, in certain areas. I mean, the mids, the way the pinna gain is done, and then the way it plateaus itself across, and so on, very similar. The biggest differences are that because you don't have that mid bass bump, okay, as on the MS3, the bass here sounds way cleaner, way more detailed, and that whole area of the mids, upper mids, and treble just open up completely different. So it is as detailed, if not more detailed, than the MS3, but without having that harshness that sometimes I encountered. Okay, it doesn't have that over energy. Everything is very smooth, very relaxed, but energetic enough to be fun. If that kind of makes sense, what I'm trying to say. Anyway, that's that one. And then finally, the GS Audio, the GD3C, which again has got that more well executed bass. It glides more gently, no bleed per se, and then there is some reminiscence here. The way that the pinna gain is done, kind of similar, just peaks a little bit lower and further on. Then you also have that area there between 4 and 6K being a little bit overly emphasized, and on certain songs again, like things with sax and trumpets and so on, it could be a little bit twin test, but again, nothing really offensive. The GD3C still stands as one of my regs for a 1+2 at around $100. If you want a nice solid 1+2, this is definitely an IEM that I will still recommend. And that's it. Oh, finally, just for the sake of comparison, here's the graph of the MS5 with the bass nozzle filter and the bass tip, and I just I think it's phenomenal IEM. I genuinely think it is a phenomenal IEM. Oops, sorry, I've got here the wrong one to compare it with. It's this one we want to compare it with. With the gold nozzle, the MS5 is very different sounding. When we, however, put the other nozzle, the red nozzle, that changes things a little bit more, makes it a little bit more interesting. I just need to change the color here. Let me put it blue. Yeah, blue. It doesn't sound as bloated or as thick in the bass as the graph would, first of all, want you to believe. And then the similarities here are quite equal. I mean, the way that the mids, upper mids, and treble is done is very similar on the two. What then you do notice on the MS5 as compared to the MS3 is more sense of soundstage, more sense of grandness of sound. That's the thing that absolutely just seduces me every time on the MS5, and that's why I prefer it. So that's it, guys. I mean, that's basically it. Just one last time, the graph of the MS3 with the red nozzle, with the gold nozzle, with the silver nozzle. As always, any questions, please ask, and don't forget to like and subscribe, of course. All right, you take care now. Bye bye.